Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Saturday Morning D&D show. As you can tell, my voice is about to die.
Oh no. He's not going to make it, people.
A combination of my son coughing into my face and going to a concert last night.
And screaming your head off, singing all the songs.
Yeah, well, we weren't singing so much as like trying to talk to each other.
Oh.
But yeah, Silver Bullet. Oh, smoky voice, Jordan. Yeah. So I apologize, but you know, we'll soldier on, and you, the listener, can choose to listen or not. So there you go.
I'll try not to go way over my normal volume, because that way, if they're turning it up to hear you, I don't come back bombastic. I'll go a little lower
But yes,
today.
hello, welcome to the Saturday Morning D&D show. My name is Jordan with a silent PH in the middle, and I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host Sir Lucien over at Sir Lucien Gaming. How are you today? This fine
I'm
April
great.
30th.
It's almost more than like the silent PH in the middle. Now it's like the silent voice in the person. So it's like it's very, very.
It's
quiet.
Jordan, the entity that has taken over Jordan is
Straight.
now. Yeah, the Stranger Things, Jordan, the Vecna of Jordan, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah. Did
Well,
you
I was
hear that?
wondering.
Vecna is in Stranger Things. Did we talk about that?
I did.
I think we did.
We did.
Yeah.
We did. And I can't wait. And I think I got to look up the date for when that starts, because it's going to be really good.
Who do you think it is? Do you think it's the Mind Flayer plus one of the human characters? And I was wondering if it was the villain from season 3, the jerk boy that
Yeah, the really crazy kind of rocker dude,
super the lifeguard kid.
California rocker guy. Yeah.
Or is it the original Doctor from season 1?
Ooh, that could be good too. I think there's so many of them, and I think on purpose they made us think it could be a couple of them. And I'm hoping they did that to throw us off the scent, and it's not obvious, because it could also be, one of our main characters who's had the problems with stuff inside him. He's been in the the
Upside down, yeah.
upside down way too many times, so anything could have happened to him. There's millions of different times. So I think it could be any of those. I guess it does look more of like an adult, and I guess they're still kids, teenagers, almost college kids at this point. I'm waiting to see how the
many
ages
years have
look
gone
and
by,
the-
from
yeah.
my understanding. So
Yeah, I'm waiting to see how that's going to kind of track out. But yeah, it could be the original Doctor. Would be a good one.
Netflix is leaving, or people are leaving Netflix in troves.
Oh,
And so
I'll be watching it alone.
their subscriptions have gone down, I guess, and investors are freaking out. Money, who cares about money? Everybody, I guess. But they split the season up into 2, and I think that was to get people hooked on the first half of season 4 and then to play the latter half of season 4. So
Yeah. I do think there's something to... There was this big, totally off tabletop RPG games, but I think it's a cool thing to talk about real quick, is that I felt like we went through a phase where dropping all episodes at once was really cool, like towards the beginning of the pandemic, or even just before it was kind of popular. And then you could really just binge watch that. It was like the couple years of binge watching. But then I think they only did it for a couple years, and then one great show came out where it was only once a week, and then they reminded themselves that sometimes if you savor one episode a week and then you're forced to wait a little bit too, it can sometimes also be an enjoyable experience waiting for that next one, and all the talk that can go on, and speculation, and the community building that can happen because you're waiting and anticipating what might happen in the next episode. So it feels like the pendulum has swung back again to say, oh, let's slow play release stuff. Let's slow it out there and not do as much as the binge stuff. I guess I like both styles for different reasons, and I'm fine, I guess, with either. But it is interesting that how it's going back and forth, right? It's just like this.
yeah, it's a personal preference, I guess, too.
Yeah.
Usually when I sit down, I only watch like 1 or 2 episodes of a show, even if I have all of it available.
Mm-hmm.
My binge watching days of anime for 8 hours straight are gone. But it would be interesting from a business perspective. I think that releasing it maybe daily, I'm not sure. Kind of depends on the series too, right? Like
Yeah.
if it's got good cliffhangers to wait a week. But with Disney, I mean, when they were doing Loki, And I loved that it was every week, and I was so waiting for the next one. And then right after Loki finished, we got one of the Marvel movies that came out, Spider-Man, I think, No Way Home. And so it was like this kind of fun setup into that. And now we're doing the same thing with Moon Knight, where the final episode of Moon Knight's going to happen, and then Doctor Strange comes out like 4 days later. And it's almost like the show is just a setup to go see the movie, like in a way. But the show's really good. I'm enjoying Moon Knight.
I don't even think like in a way. I think they're purposely doing a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Well, but what I'm trying to say is it almost feels like in the grand scheme, Moon Knight doesn't matter because it's really just an advertisement setup for that. But that is not what I think. So
yeah. I hear you. That was, and it leads back into the very first thing I was going to say in the top of the thing is when Jordan joined, we were in our pre-show, and I thought, boy, his energy looks low, but he hasn't really said anything, so I'll leave him alone, because I'm thinking, doesn't he know the Doctor Strange movies like next week? His favorite Marvel character, the most exciting character for Jordan ever, and his energy's low. Like, he should be ramped up. And now I know why you were sick and you went to a concert and not feeling well.
Not COVID.
Because I expected like crazy. Yeah.
I always feel like I have to tell people like, no, I took a test, so I didn't just like blindly go to a concert. But I think just like being out late and stuff, and my throat is just hurt. Doctor Strange is my favorite Marvel character, and I have to go to a wedding next week. So I can't actually go and see it. And so I have to I need to rip the battery out of my phone and stay off the internet because I have to go see it. I might just go by myself like Saturday night. I don't know.
And you have to see it pure. You don't want anybody else's.
I've been specifically staying away from trailers because I know I will enjoy it. I know that I will enjoy it. I want to go in and just enjoy it. One of my great regrets is seeing the trailers for Thor 3, Thor Ragnarok. Because in the trailers, they showed that the Hulk comes bursting out, and he's like, and it's like, oh, could you imagine the reveal if you didn't know that was going to be the Hulk? That would have been so cool. So, but they wanted to advertise that's going to draw people in. It's like, oh, the Hulk's in this movie. I better go see it. So
in some ways, I do also try to stay away from trailers quite a bit. And the one that taught me that way back in the day was the original Matrix. I was just going on an afternoon to the theater. I had not seen a single thing. I didn't even know the name of it. Didn't know it was in the movie theater. Didn't know nothing. And I had a half day off of work. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to drive by the theater and see if there's a movie that I could watch just midday and just, spend my couple of days, have some popcorn, and just enjoy it. And I was hardly anybody in there. And I saw it says The Matrix. And the only thing in my mind is I was a computer nerd and an IT person. I thought, oh, Matrix. That sounds IT. That sounds sci-fi. Maybe I'll go see it. Because all it was the green lettering, right?
Yeah.
And I get in there. Can you imagine not knowing anything about that movie and you go in and you're with Neo and the reveals and everything I walked out of that and I immediately bought another ticket, went back in and watched it again. It was so good and it had surprised me so much. And then after then I would kind of curse trailers for showing me good parts. And I know you want to get me like into your theater to see it, but stop showing me all the good stuff.
Yeah. Trailers are good when I don't know anything about the movie, I guess, but I don't know. Like that's a whole conversation. Like, are trailers spoiling too much? I'm not sure. I don't know.
Let me bring it back to our show now.
Okay.
I am so worried about the Dungeons and Dragons movie. I think I want a trailer because I want to kind of know. I need to see something. I'm super worried. Like,
so I've been thinking about I like movies a lot. I mean, before role-playing games, before all of that, like I've always been in movies. I wanted to make movies. So I think I still follow the movie circuit like big time, or the movie. I don't know. Like we're in the Earth sphere because we're in the tabletop RPG sphere. I'm in the movie sphere as well. And a lot of the tabletop RPG sphere are just like, oh man, like they finished shooting like a year and a half ago. Like, why don't they have any footage? Why don't they have this? And I'm like, because there are other movies being made and they're making sure that they hire Industrial Light and Magic to do like effects, but Industrial Light and Magic is like, okay, we'll put you on this schedule because we've got all these other movies that we're doing. And so, yes, the footage is shot, but they don't have there's other people, other hands that are trying to make this work. And money talks, but you can't just like money your way to other movies not getting done on time. Yeah. And Ted was really upset at the D&D Direct that they didn't have a trailer. And I'm like, well, in my mind, I'm like, first of all, Paramount's running the show. Hasbro isn't even an investor. And then I had to eat my words because I went and looked at it, and Hasbro is 100% a producer on the movie. So they have a very direct say in what happens. But you look at the Paramount side, there's all these like special effects companies working on it and stuff like that. And when they know that the release date is 2023, they're not in a rush. They're like, we'll build hype, blah, blah, blah. But that being said, I do have some news about that because Paramount had a like Paramount Direct kind of thing, I guess, or maybe it was just for board members, but they showed 7 seconds of the movie, and it had a blue dragon flying around, like a giant blue dragon. It's set in there were like buildings exploding. They think it's going to be like the new Jumanji movies, where
I saw that
the kids will be playing, and then it'll flash into Chris Pine is like one of the kid characters. So cool. I don't know if it's like getting sucked into the game like Jumanji style, or if it's I should say Jumanji the new one with Mr. Johnson. But or if it's going to be like them playing at the table, and then when they flash into the game, it's actually like Chris Pine and Rodriguez and what have you. So,
well, that's the cool story. I think that's the story I would want to do if I did the Dungeons and Dragons movie, was kind of the cartoon teenagers, kids somehow tumble into the world of Dungeons and Dragons, and they're the characters.
See, I wanted it to be more, yeah, and that's a great approach. I'm not like poo-pooing your idea, and I think that's the direction they're going. But I really wanted it to be
Stranger Things, more like where they showed the kids playing, but then they
the Lego movie. Did you ever see the Lego movie?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Where like the Lego movie has really high stakes within the Lego universe, but then you realize that it is just a kid playing and getting out his like frustrations with his dad and things like that. And so,
or Princess Bride.
Yeah, I think Princess Bride's a good one. So we'll see. I think they even hinted that it has princess vibe. It has Princess Bride vibes in an interview with Chris Pine. So I don't know. Everyone's like, all the other movies have been so bad. And I'm like, because they were made by bad movie studios. Like, those studios didn't make good movies. They just made movies that they owned the license for D&D. They knew people would buy it solely on the name of D&D. And so this is like a really good step. They have really good writer-director. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and what that other company did and those other movies did, they eroded our trust in the possibility of getting something pretty good. So that might mean that when we do get something good, we're really going to love it, which could be good. I'm hoping, it's our main hobby. It's a thing that I would love to see done well, and not done in a way that we just get teased more about being Dungeons and Dragons players. Right?
No.
You basement dwelling Dungeons and Dragons players.
This is the first major step into turning D&D into a lifestyle brand, which is what Hasbro wants, what Wizards of the Coast wants.
Makes sense.
So if you notice, like, it's Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves. We're going to have a cajillion of these, and it's going to be Dungeons and Dragons, the Wizards of blah, blah, blah. And we're going to have entirely new characters, maybe some returning, like who knows, but they want to build a whole movie franchise exactly like Disney, exactly like Marvel, I should say.
Yeah.
And if you have this Wizards of Waverly Place, thank you, Steven. But if you have this world, this established canonical world, you can tell a story here, tell a story here, tell a story here, and then build up to Avengers. And all of a sudden you're like, we have a spell plague. what's multiverse? Now we have an Eberron movie. Like, I don't know. That's what they want, I think. Very, very much so. They want to create a Marvel cinematic universe, a Dungeons & Dragons cinematic universe. And it's going to start in Forgotten Realms because that's what they own and know. So,
well, you hear here first, so that's confirmed. They're building up to a Dungeons & Dragons Spelljammer movie.
That's what they want. They would. That's what they want, you know? And with special effects nowadays, they could totally do it. Like, thinking about doing something this epic, kind of the same with superhero movies. Like, they never really worked out before computer graphics, and now computer graphics are so good that, like, you have really good Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Oh, that was another rumor I heard, is they said it looks very much like Dungeons & Dragons Guardians of the Galaxy. It's going to be a bunch of misfit people trying to work together, and, like, a little good, a little bad, a little in between. Like, so.
Crazy.
Yeah. But let's talk about some tabletop stuff.
Yeah. Let's get into some Dungeons and Dragons.
We don't have a lot of news because we just got a bunch of stuff a couple weeks ago.
Last week we really, we laid it all out there, and there was a ton, really. So,
but Spelljammer's confirmed. Combination of so a lot of people. A lot of people were getting confused because they're like, "What's wild space?" And what's the astral sea, and what is the phlogiston? That word keeps floating around too.
Because that was the old.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, all of the solar systems within the Spelljammer setting are these giant crystal. They're like eggs. They're like these weird circle. Sometimes they're spheres, but sometimes they're like oblong. And they're called crystal spheres. And they bob in this really flammable mist called the phlogiston that is completely cut off from other planes. Like, if you take a bag of holding into the phlogiston, it becomes a regular bag. Like, your demiplane in the bag of holding is completely inaccessible until you go back to regular space.
And this was our known kind of canon before
this is 2E,
we get to 5e.
Advanced
right?
Dungeons
so
and
before we
Dragons.
get to 5e, This is the canon that everybody who would have been playing it or had read about it, that's what you're giving us. Yep,
correct.
Keep going.
So when they say wild space, what they really just mean is regular space. Like, the space between planets is called wild space. And it's like the space between here and a star, the space between whatever. Like, that is wild space. It's airless. It's just, I don't know why they decided to name it wild space, but it is just regular space. Flash forward to 4th edition, and they rebuilt the cosmology and turned the astral plane into an astral sea, where it was you could go there, and you could go below the quote water, and you could still breathe. So but there was like a line, and you would sail the astral sea, and you had ships that sailed. From what we're getting from Wizards of the Coast, and a lot of, like, Chris Perkins answered a couple questions, they're going to combine Spelljammer and this astral sea concept and get rid of the phlogiston. Like, we don't need this weird flammable mist.
Flammable air.
What's going to happen is, I think it's going to be a gradual change. You don't hit a wall anymore. You don't hit a crystal shell like that you have to punch a hole through. You're going to get to the edge of wild space, and it's going to slowly bleed into an ocean. And then you sail that ocean for a while, and that ocean will take you to other places, other realms, which makes me think that they are going to combine I think a later product will also be Planescape, and it will be added onto this. So traditionally you would go into the astral sea to go to, like, the plane of Mechanus, or all of the other, like the Abyss or something. Like, you could go to planar travel that way. And it sounds like they're wanting to combine Spelljammer and Planescape into one thing. So if I go far enough from a galaxy into the astral sea, then I can hypothetically sail to Kryn, or I could sail to the Abyss. Like, so that's my take.
I like that idea too, because if you're going to do ship design, I like the idea that it's a ship that moves in space, so it can really have any shape that it wants. But if you say at some point when it tries to transition and it's going to make those long distances, it has this sea that it has to navigate, and the ship's shape might help how it navigates that piece. Then you start to get like more nuanced on why these ships might look the way they are, how they might be built, and then you can start thinking, okay, well, how does this group tackle that? How did the Gith decide to do their ships and handle the astral sea part of it, and what did theirs look like? So I like the idea that could push it back into still being almost wooden magical ships that, or at least in those shapes, those traditional kind of ship shapes that we recognize as something that tries to float on the ocean using buoyancy and ballast and all that kind of cool stuff. And obviously I was in the Navy, so that's a big thing for me. So I love the idea that there's something that makes that it's not just a cube moving through. It's not the Borg cube.
That
but maybe it will be.
Cool.
Maybe there will be
a mechanist cube that runs around taking over. And with a helm, which is the magical chair that it's kind of like the magical captain's chair that's the pilot chair. You can attach that to any ship. And so that's why another reason is because like I'm a wizard, I have a helm, but I don't have a ship. I don't know how to make a ship. So you go and buy like a regular sailing ship and turn it into this. And so I'm curious about the air mechanics, and I think a lot of the lore will go away. Like specifically the gnomes having military bases on various moons. Maybe not. I'm not sure, but we'll see. But I'm really excited. I think this is the next logical step because people are getting very tired of the Forgotten Realms. Yeah. And I think they desperately needed to have a new way to tell stories. And so
I would amend just a bit, see if you agree with me. I think they're getting bored of the Sword Coast. I think they'd be happy to see other parts of
the Forgotten
Realms we haven't heard of.
Yes.
But I think we're all we're like, okay, we've got a good rundown of Sword Coast. I can run stuff in Sword Coast. I've got lots of materials I can pull from. I can use what I need. But I don't have other stuff anywhere else. Give me some other stuff that I could use.
And you're right. And it's funny because I think about a lot of the adventures and Dungeon of the Mad Mage could really go anywhere. It's not really Sword Coasty.
Yep.
And Descent into Avernus goes into Avernus, and the Tomb of Annihilation is 99% in Chult. So I don't know, but you're right. I would love to see like a Red Wizard campaign set in Thay and stuff. So I am personally not tired of the realms, but that's me. But I think a lot of people are just like, I don't want another Sword Coast beginning adventure. Like, can we go somewhere else? So
here's another big thought for you. I'm going to throw another one at you. It wasn't in the notes, so prepare.
I'm a trained improviser.
I am a trained improviser, Lucien. I feel like this has changed my opinion in one way. The release that we got all of last week. I think I'm leaning now more that we're getting Dungeons & Dragons 5.5, and I'm leaning further and further away that we're very close to Dungeons & Dragons 6. As before that, I think I had that flipped. I really thought maybe they are going to announce a new version here and really put a capstone on this one and say, okay, we're ready to shoot off into the next one. But now, I don't know, with the stuff they've been releasing and the things that it looks like it's setting up for future stuff to do, this feels more like the 0.5 increment to me and not the change of the full system. How has your opinion been? Has it changed with any announcement, or has it reinforced what your opinion was?
Yeah, I agree. Specifically because they said that it's going to be backwards compatible. And I think it's going to be backwards compatible in the way that it really isn't a different game, but to players, they'll be able to sell a new player's handbook. Does that make sense? Like, it'll have the revised Ranger in it. It'll have maybe some other things, and it'll be like maybe more subclasses from some of the expansions that we got later on. The Artificer will be officially in the player's handbook. Probably. Like, things like that. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. So I am wondering if we're going to get a new class with Spelljammer because of like psychic stuff. I'm like, are you going to actually introduce a psychic class? We haven't seen any playtests for that, but that is also something I think you would keep really on the DL. So not necessarily with this Spelljammer release, but like the 5.5 that we keep talking about. Are you going to add a psychic class finally? So
that'd be cool. And that'd be a reason to really incrementally change, because if you do finally bring psionics into the new version, that's a big thing to kind of hang. This is why we're doing 5.5, because this is a big shift from what we have done.
Yeah.
That could be interesting. I could see that. So very interesting. Yeah, I'm super excited about the Spelljammer, just all of it, really. I like that it's a slipcase. I can't wait to read all the different stuff. And I think there's going to be a lot of adventures. There'll be a lot of DMsGuild adventures probably out there you can get. I think a lot of third-party companies will jump on that bandwagon a little bit as it gets released. So, but that's a little bit in the future. We got a book coming up here pretty quick, and we've got and there was a UA survey out. Did you fill out your survey this week?
I did not, but I was rereading the Heroes of Krynn Revisited. That's what it was for. I'll be honest, I've never filled out a survey. I just don't think about it, I guess. But I'm trying to find the differences. I think they were subtle. Do you know the differences between the first one and the revised? But
I didn't read them close enough to see the difference, but I feel like they were talking. Jeremy was talking about it. There's a video on D&D if you want to see where he talks about what they kind of went back and did, because they'd gotten feedback and they were starting to incorporate some of that feedback already.
Yeah, and I like it. The at least the new one, as I was going through it this morning, kind of like reacquainting myself with it. You're gonna get a background that actually gives you feats. So it's not like backgrounds have always kind of been flavor. And you're like, I was a pirate, so I'm good at like navigating water ships, and I have proficiency in survival. And then you proceed to go into a dungeon and never use those ever. So it really was all about flavor. And I like flavor. I like building custom themed characters, and I think that's a lot of fun. This is turning it into a very mechanical thing. So it's like, okay, you're going to take this background. That background's going to give you this bonus feat at level 1, and then you'll get another feat for free at level 4. And so because of that background, it's like, well, I've trained more as a knight, so I get, this mounted combatant feat or something, which I was kind of already doing in games. It's like, if it made sense that they were like, no, like you trained like this, I'm going to give you that feat or something. Like I never really saw, I guess I was ahead of the curve is what I'm trying to say. Like
okay.
Wizards of the Coast, hire me. I'll be your smoky voice podcaster. It'll be great. And that's what I'm seeing here is like, you take this and you get your skill proficiencies and your languages, and then you get like a bonus feat. And there's like a list to choose from, like here's the feats that kind of like work. And then there are specifically the feats that are tied to Dragonlance, like Divinely Favored or Adept of the Black Robes. But this is no less or more powerful than the piety system from Theros, I feel. So a lot of people are talking like, oh, this is going to be, you're growing feats everywhere. And I'm like, well, like feats do change the game. Multi-classing does change the game, but also like that piety system, like you got real powerful. Like you could do all kinds of crazy magic as like a rogue, like with no magic powers. And so because of your divine whatever from your Theros gods.
Yeah, I feel like it's the one mechanic that allows diversity in the means of, if there's 5 of us at the table and we all picked wizard, the one thing that's going to make us a little bit different is the school we choose. But even then, the differences are there, but they might not be as big as you may think. But when people started selecting feats, or they would multi-class into a second place, there you would see some drastic differences between your wizard, my wizard, and their wizard, right? So I really always, and I think that's maybe my guess why they would want to expand that and be able to give options, because then characters could be really further fine-tuned. I'm not just a wizard. I'm not just a wizard of the evocation school. Boom, here's my set of feats. This makes me totally different than this other person who's doing some other things. Maybe they even have the same subclass at that point, but they could be a very different flavor at that point. But I do think it's interesting because in my mind, and I don't know if it was the way they thought of it or not, but I always thought backgrounds were what you did before you became an adventurer. And you stopped doing that stuff. You left that behind. If you wanted to continue doing that, you would have continued doing that. You wouldn't be an adventurer. But at some point in the, I'm done with this background and I'm moving to an adventurer. So that's why I always thought you had like a set of skills that may not correspond to how you adventure now, but they make a link between what you were and what you are. And sometimes it might help you, right?
Yeah.
You could climb a rope really well because you were in the circus back in the day, but now you're an adventurer, and juggling doesn't do anything for you typically as an adventurer. But maybe, just maybe, somewhere it'll pop up and that thing will work, but it's really not thing you use very often anymore. So to me, that's how I always thought. I always thought backgrounds were the tell me what I was. Give me some stuff that I could have used, or maybe I can somehow creatively use, but is not super useful. And now I'm building where I'm going into the future. But I could see how they could change it. I mean, I can see the reason to change it.
Well, and I'm gonna back up. I mean, a lot of us start games at level 5 or 3 now.
Yeah.
And so the background isn't so much like who were you before you became an adventurer, but like this is the path that has taken you to the present right now. You know? And so I was a street urchin, and then I did this, and then I did that. But like maybe when I left my street urchin life, I was level 3. Like we don't know, you know? And so that's the tricky, like combining levels into experience. And I say experience in the sense of like a character who has gone through some experiences. Right. I also think the reason that they're doing this, because it would be very easy to just say, okay, new optional rule. Everyone gets a free feat at first level and at 4th level. Take whatever you want. But this way, it's tying in for new players. So a new player will be like, I don't know what to do. It's like, well, why don't you be a rogue? And you're like, okay, I'll be a rogue. And then you like look at backgrounds. You're like, oh, could I be a rogue that like used to be a pirate? Yeah, that's cool. And now that pirate background comes with these free bonuses, these feats. And so while you're playing, you're like, oh, wait, because I'm a pirate, I can do this. And it's almost like it'll feel like a class within a class. Does that make sense? And I think that'll be the appeal to players. So if anything, we'll get more feats out of this, like maybe a really cool feat book or something. I don't know.
And I think in other games, I've seen it where it's like what you're talking about. It's not something you've left behind, but it's something that still is with you, even though you're an adventurer. And they call them like a vocation, where like you had a job that you still do and can do on your downtime, still can be something you're involved with, even though you're going on world-saving adventures and you're doing, you know, adventure-y stuff. You're dungeon delving and you're doing these things, but you still might be a jeweler, or you still might be
because you have
somebody
that
who's
profession.
a blacksmith or something. You know, the profession where they bring those background and profession together, and then you can just choose.
I mean, noble is a great one because like you're still a noble. You know,
you're still
or unless your house is gone or something, but then it's like, well,
the tragic.
I was a noble, and now it's tragic and awesome. So
yeah,
for sure. So Heroes of Krynn, it's out. It looks cool. I don't know anything about Krynn. I actually went looking for Dragonlance novels, and I realized that they're second only to Forgotten Realms novels in the amount of novels. I was like, oh my god. So I might try to read one. I'm not sure, but
good luck. I heard from a few sources that like to read books and go back to stories they read way back that they had a really hard time originally read them, but they were younger and it worked. Whereas trying to go back now, it didn't work as well.
The book was less enjoyable.
The story was, the nostalgia was not there of what they remembered it to be. But maybe you'll have a different experience when you read it.
And who knows? You know, like I love Gundam. I will always love Gundam. I think it's so cool. Like Japan loves Gundam. Gundam is popular. 13, 14-year-old Jordan loved Gundam Wing. It was the coolest show. The story, so complex, so amazing. And then I rewatched
Jordan.
it. Like, it was before Oliver was born, so it must have been like 2017 or 2018. I rewatched it. And it's awful. And I was like, I was talking to some of my friends from high school, and I'm like, guys, I think we were wrong. Like, this is the worst show. It's poorly written. It makes no sense. These characters are one-dimensional. So you're right. That does happen. Like, I think a lot of people, Dritz might be the same way. I'm not faulting R.A. Salvatore. I think he's a fine writer. But, like, he even says, he's like, I just write fun action scenes. And I'm like, you do. And your characters are very Mary Sue-ish, but that's fine. So thank you, Steve, for Steve Zirk for the $5 donation.
Steve.
Yeah. So I don't know, like, super. Yeah, I don't know.
About to get a book report on it.
So that is a thing. I'm still reading a Dragonlance novel. I keep getting, or Dragonlance, an Eberron novel. I keep getting tied away from it, but that one's pretty good. I'm really enjoying that. Helping me understand the world more. I was going to read a Spelljammer novel too to help me understand, like, how do I have a Spelljammer game? But I heard those novels are terrible. And there are some Spelljammer comic books that came out that are a much better read with the same characters. So
this must be, if it's Eberron, is it Keith Baker, or are there other people writing Eberron stories? Do you think there's other novels out?
Yeah, so the one I am reading is a Keith Baker novel. It's book 1 of the Dreaming Dark series. Mm-hmm. And I think it's called City by the Spire or something. It takes place in the City of Spires that I can't think of the name of now. Anyway, the big city in Sharn. Thank you, Sharn. So it takes place in Sharn.
Eberron fans in the chat.
They're all like, say it. He wrote it. But this was also back when Wizards of the Coast was a book publisher. And they were actively publishing books. So they would hire writers and say, you're going to write a book in this world. And they would sit down and write a book. They weren't looking for people. They were just looking for writers for hire. So you'll see a lot of the same names. Like, I think Troy Denning, he did a bunch of Forgotten Realms one, a couple Eberron ones, a Spelljammer one. Like, he's just like, give me some characters, I'll write you a story. And he did. And of that big, like, let's get all of these, R.A. Salvatore's Dritz characters was one of the few that really stuck. That and Elminster. But that's because Ed Greenwood is the father of the Forgotten Realms. So I feel like they always went back to him and they're like, do you want to write another one? He's like, oh yeah, you know. When I love what Ed has done with the realms, and but as a writer, I really struggle with his words. Like, I'm just like, this is not gelling with me, but you made a really cool world. Like, I love this world.
Well, I got a good tie-in for our next note there in our next little thing. Have you read Matt Colville's novels?
I haven't. You know,
oh my God.
A friend of mine read them and said, well, DM Nathan said that they're very good.
Very good.
I'm a little hesitant to start because now
Black
that
Company good.
He's popular doing all this other stuff, they're like, well, what's the one he wants to do? Fighter, I think, is the third one.
It's like a full party, and he's done, I think, 2 or
Priest
3,
and
he's
Thief.
going to do a 4th. Yeah, they were so good.
But he has no plans on finishing them. From what I hear.
Yeah, he's really taking his time for
and so it's like,
but they're good.
But I do hear they're very good, and I want to read them. Yeah,
and I've read both. I don't feel like they give you that. Come on, Colville, hurry up with the next one. It's more about because I like what you're doing versus I don't know what's happened in the story. The books are very contained stories, so if you just read the one, it's a contained story, and you could walk away from it. There's not a, you're not like, oh no, it's not like Endgame and, oh no, Thanos snapped.
Yeah,
what
those
happened?
cliffhanger books that literally,
no, that.
like, you're like, like, I like self-contained, because you're right. Like, those cliffhanger books, you're literally just reading a 50,000 page book by the end of it,
Yeah.
But speaking of that, like, I wanted to read Brandon Sanderson too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I have a couple. I actually got some audiobooks for our drive for the wedding that we're going to go to this weekend. And
so next week we'll hear about, or the week after.
Well, yeah, the week after. Yeah, we're off next week, guys.
We're off next week.
Both me and Lucien are out of town, so we're not going to do it. But I wanted to try out those books too, and so I'm in a play right now. I have to memorize lines. I don't have a lot of time to read. Like when I do have time to read, I'm usually memorizing lines. And so I thought a car ride might be a good time to test out audiobooks. So we're going to try that out.
Yeah, I like it.
Sponsored by Audacity. It's not. We're not.
No,
Don't.
But we would if you contact
But if you want to.
So the tie-in to that then is, so you should read the Coville books if you can get them at some point, or at least put them on your list for some point when you have an opening.
They're on my list.
We're at 48 hours, basically, probably actually 47 or 46 by the time we're done with today's show, of Flee Mortals, the Kickstarter for MCDM, which we all love. Looks like it's a 1.8 million. We're wondering, he's wondering if it's going to push up, and he was on Twitter quite a bit last night and the day before, because at the 2 million mark, they've got a Kickstarter goal to play like the hardest board game ever built or made, and apparently like a single turn takes 12 hours.
Nobody's
6
ever
hours,
finished a campaign
8 hours.
or
Nobody's
something.
it's like, so it's like this crazy old board game that's this South Africa or Africa campaign during World War II kind of thing, and they're gonna play it as on stream, and they're gonna
play like
and he bought it
a round or something. Yeah,
they're gonna attempt to play around if they can. I just think it's funny. So he's wondering if it's gonna happen.
I don't know. I actually haven't backed this yet, and I probably should. I was thinking, like, I don't feel like I need more monsters, and these feel like complex monsters. And I was watching Sly Flourish, and he was like, he's like, James Introcaso is one of my best friends. He's an excellent designer, but like, I don't want complicated monsters. And I'm like, you're right, I don't either, because I forget what spells they have. Like, which kobold is that? Is that the kobold that can spit fire, or is that the kobold that explodes when it dies? Like, I don't know. And so, but man, the art's cool, and like the idea behind it is cool. So, but I don't know if I need another monster book. I just don't know.
Yeah, you say that, and you put the kobold with the backpack that had a million things that it could do.
Exactly. That's also a complicated monster. Does it need to be more complicated?
Monster. Yeah. So. That's not just a normal kobold. You totally complicated that.
Well, that's straight up 5th edition. I didn't even make that. So yeah. But you're right. I don't know. Like, that's where monster design is heading with Mordenkainen and Tome of Foes that comes out next week. Like, all of that is like a way to make monsters simpler to run, because your players very much know all of their abilities. And when you have like 7 or 8 monsters and you're like, do I have a legendary resist? This guy's immune to petrification. Like, I did a whole game where they were stunning striking the monster, and then I found out after we finished that the monster was immune to stun. And it's, I don't know. I want to know that it's clear, and fights can be difficult, like, especially in the teens, you know?
Yeah. Or if you have the spell list, you have 12 spells, and they put in 10 that you really wouldn't even use at all. So they're just in the way. And then you're trying to figure out how.
And I'm wondering if this will be a similar thing. But for certain new players, it's kind of nice to know, like, this monster will always do this. This monster will always run if this, they need that kind of what if then statements of a fight to help them DM. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I think they have talked about one of the design philosophies, and we'll have to see if they actually follow it, is that not only are they adding the abilities to the creatures to make them different than just a basic, but they are looking at streamlining how you run them in the combat. So hopefully they do keep that in mind, and they don't get crazy and it becomes really hard for a DM to track. But I've noticed too, if you look at a lot of the Kickstarters that have been out in the last couple months that are either getting announced or just started happening or are about to happen, they all seem to be monster books also. There's a lot of third-party people doing more monster books. So it's like everybody decided it's time to do a D&D 5e monster book.
Yeah.
So I've seen a bunch of them out there. So you'll have plenty to choose from. I too am probably going to do my pledge today. Because I think I also want to get a T-shirt.
Yeah, well, the other cool thing is if you're on the fence like me, you can totally pledge at $1.
Yeah.
And then you're in their backer kit. So later on, you can add things like, oh, I really want that shirt or that enamel pin. And you know what? Now I think I just want the PDF. So if you at least pledge $1, you can get in that. And then finalize your thing later. Like you don't actually have to. So,
and what he has said about releasing, they're going to they're creating these in batches and they're going to release them as they get them done. You are not going to have to wait till the book is printed to get these monsters to put into your campaign.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
So you're going to get batches and batches and batches of them as they go that you're going to be able to add to your campaign long before you get the printed book in front of you.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and there's a primer out there right now of 10, right? They have 10 of them out there. So if you probably another good way to see, is this something I want? Because they're probably going to do more of what that is. You can go look right now and see what they've done with 10 of them. And if that's kind of your jam, then you can get more jam. If that's not your jam, you just want the peanut butter, then you go find peanut butter somewhere else.
That's fun. I don't know.
48 hours to go.
Yep.
1.8 million, though. We've been talking about Kickstarters and how big they've been in the last. He's still going strong. MCDM is always running huge.
This is his
money-making.
This is his biggest one yet, right? Like,
yeah, and they pared it down. He didn't even put he said we didn't do the thing that we did before where we guesstimated shipping. So shipping's not even in this one, which inflated the original one.
Yeah.
Whereas this one's not that, because shipping will be after that. So it's like. Yeah, they're running like gangbusters right now out there for their stuff. And it's good. I love their content. I'm glad it helps them keep their company moving forward and growing. And I always like the stuff I get.
Yeah, it's a dream job for James. And I agree. He is a really good designer and just has done a lot of really awesome stuff. And I think this is a great fit for him. We have some of these designers on the show, like Celeste Konowich and stuff. And there was a part of me that they were all of them were chasing that dream job at Wizards. And there is, and I don't mean them ill will when I say this. I think it actually is better that Wizards didn't hire them because they're able to do cooler, more unique stuff away from that company. Like the stuff that James can do with Matt and talk directly to Matt, and Matt just says, "That's dope. Let's do it." Like that.
You don't get Beastmaster.
Wizards. You don't get the Beast Heart. You don't get things like that.
Yeah.
Like Wizards would have to be like, well, we have to talk about the ramifications of blah blah blah.
Maybe that's in
How
2
does
years
this?
from now.
It's like we just want to make cool stuff, and I feel like Celeste is the same way. Like she got hired at 2C Gaming, and they're just like, what do you want to do? And she's like, Venture Maiden book, and they made this really dope book that's still not out yet, but it's close. And so I wish my friends well. I think I have been in that situation where you don't get your dream job, and then maybe like 5 years later you look back and you're like, that was probably the best thing to not get that job. But I also wanted to point out Monty Cook's Old Gods of Appalachia is at 1.5 million, which I think is one of the highest for a Monty Cook Kickstarter.
Yeah, this one came out of really nowhere for me.
And it apparently is a podcast, a horror Lovecraftian podcast set in the Appalachian Mountains, back in like Old West times.
Yeah, sounds
that
awesome.
was popular enough that they're adapting it into this. And I don't know much about it, but like the art looks really cool. And I'm a big Monty Cook fan. Obviously, we both are. That I wanted to highlight that. We don't have to go super into it, but it's ending in like 6 days or so.
Yeah, I'm a huge Justified fan. So if you watch the show Justified, I want to play a U.S. Marshal in the Appalachians, in the hollers. That would be just a great. And I love the idea that you're going to add in Cthulhu or something like that. Oh my God, so good. So yeah, it seems like Kickstarters are still banging pretty good. They're still going pretty well. I've seen a bunch of them out there, so there's plenty to stay informed on. One of the things for our Paizo fans out there, I know you guys have a few of you in chat that love to hear some stuff. It was a pretty big announcement for this month. May seems to be pretty big as we get out of April. getting into the Starfinder Drift Crisis. I thought you might be interested in this because this is almost like the Spell Plague.
Oh.
So if you were doing your lore thing with Starfinder, I think you'd be really hyped right now because it's like one of those big cataclysmic world, universe, multiverse changing things for that setting for the Starfinder thing.
Yeah.
Where the faster than light travel has suddenly disappeared or is not working
cool.
the way it's supposed to, or and everything is about, oh my God, what happens now in a universe that's connected by
there's a giant
kind of
ship
stuff.
that is stuck sideways in the Suez Lightspeed Canal.
Yeah.
And all the supply chains are broken.
Everything is broken. You can play your Suez Canal campaign right now. So I thought that'd be kind of cool. I don't know too much about it because I haven't been in much of their lore, but it sounds like one of those cool, we're going to shake everything up. We're Spell Plague. We're going to really mess with magic for a bit until we'll have an adventure that maybe fixes it later. But for now, things are going to be crazy, and things are going to be wild. So I kind of like that idea. Some of the other things they announced were... the Book of the Dead looks really good. This book
people
has
have been
me
talking
really
about that. Yeah.
into wanting to get into Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And I think the big thing is I'm still waiting on a great character generator. I'm waiting for Nexus to kind of get its thing together so that I can go out and create Pathfinder characters. I know that'll be the thing that triggers me being able to I want to run Pathfinder 2nd E games. I'll learn more about it.
I think you just need to dive in now. You're putting this limitation on it for no reason.
But I want to go buy this book like today. I'm going to drive down to the game store today and probably buy
should
Book
and
of
read
the
it.
Dead
See
because it looks
if
so
anything,
good.
you could steal stuff for your 5e game.
for sure.
Like it looks cool.
For sure.
Yeah, Book of the Dead. What is it about though? Like tell us.
All of the Dead. They wanted to bring all of the things they've done with the Dead in their monster books and more stuff, but really expand on it. Just give you all more around the undead of the Pathfinder 2nd Edition world as it stands.
I like that they do these pocket editions that you can like.
Yeah.
I have the pocket edition Game Master's Guide, and it's good.
They've kind of previewed the first couple of chapters, but they've kind of kept the rest under lock and key at this point. So like, I think chapter 1 is Prayers of the Living. Oh, and it'll also not only be monster. It's not just like a monster book, but it's like, I think they bring in the necromancer archetype, so you can play a necromancer. I think they have like, there might be an adventure in there. There's something about vampire companions you can have. So there's like, they're adding like a whole range of stuffed undead, whether it's character options, whether it's campaign options, whether it's monster options for, dungeon masters, game masters, that kind of thing. It sounds like a very inclusive book with a lot of stuff in it. And the artwork looks fantastic. The other things I saw that they were releasing is Outlaws of Alkenstar, which is the kind of their Pathfinder adventure path. Punks in Powder Keg. This kind of leads into their book that was before. It was like the Gears and Guns book. It was like all this mechanics and gunpowders and explosions and stuff, and they really brought that into the game just recently. And I think this kind of path, adventure path, kind of leads into really diving into that. They also have something that was kind of cool. They call it a Pathfinder gun deck, which are printed cards of artwork of different guns that would fit in the world to give you like some more options equipment wise.
Oh, cool.
Some more ideas of what things look like, some more ideas to maybe pass out as loot and treasure and stuff like that, I think. Another one I saw was the Gears deck. So this is all the kind of the mechanical stuff they were building. So you have all the stuff that comes in those books, the Guns and Gears book that gave you all those ideas, but then they follow it up with like an art pack or a card pack that has, guns and stats and artwork on it to further inspire you. Not just here's the book and we're done and we're moving on. Here's these packs of, and I don't even know how many were in there, but I don't know, 100 new. Yeah, so it's illustrations and statistics for over 100 new firearms and related equipment found in Pathfinder Guns and Gears. And the same thing with the gear deck. I thought that's a cool idea. That's something that Wizards not doing. That, I mean, Paizo is doing some really creative stuff that I think maybe a lot of us are missing if you're only sticking to one tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the Pathfinder Society stuff is coming out, and then even more Starfinder adventures that you can get. And then they were doing their flip maps, which seems like everybody's putting out the flip maps. We saw that announced with Wizards of the Coast 2, they were putting out those campaign cases, they were calling them. And they had the flip maps and the stickered, kind of figures and stuff. It looks like everybody wants to put out their own kind of flip map accessories that you can pick up and run with your games. So those are all cool things. So if you're a Starfinder fan, there's a lot, or a Starfinder, Pathfinder fan, a Paizo fan, definitely it sounds like May is a nice big month for you to get a lot of cool stuff for your games and stuff if you're into it. So let us know in the comments the stuff you're buying, what you liked, what you're looking forward to in your Pathfinder and Starfinder games that you're playing.
I just did a quick Google and I found a site called pathbuilder2e.com that I put in our host
So
chat.
I can build a character?
Yeah, apparently it's a character builder. Like,
Thank
I don't
you,
know.
Jordan.
Like, what are you waiting for? Go build a character, fool. Get out of here.
I'm going to do it today. You put it in our chat. It's going to happen today.
So I don't know if that's a good website or not, but it looks like there's an Android app too. So that's kind of cool.
That is cool.
Should check that out.
So that is my Paizo news. Looks like you had one more piece there. I didn't know if you wanted to get to it or if we're going to talk about games.
Yeah, Brindle, there's another Kickstarter. I like to cover some of the smaller Kickstarters that I find are interesting. And I say smaller. They wanted to raise 10,000. They're currently at 187,000, so they're good. Yeah. 30 days to go. They're good. But this is called Brindlewood Bay. Cozy murder mystery RPG. And I like interesting little RPGs like this. It feels kind of like Kids on Bikes kind of a thing. But in Kids on Bikes, where you're kids in the 80s, Brindlewood Bay is it says it's a combination of Murder, She Wrote and H.P. Lovecraft. So you play elderly women who are out to solve like murders and mysteries within your like New England town, which is just a funny trope. And I thought this was a clever, creative game. The art is really cute. So yeah, that's about it. I don't know anything else about it other than I think I'm going to back it because it just looks really unique and interesting. And I like the idea of it, that you're these old women that are out to solve a murder and there might be a giant tentacle face monster. So who knows?
Very cool. I have hit the button. It is official. I have pledged Flee Mortals.
The Golden Girls versus Cthulhu, exactly.
It has happened. The button has been pushed. I am number, I don't know, there's probably like, doesn't it usually tell you? Your number, whatever. Oh yeah, 2,634 people plus you. So I'm 23,635 people. That was me. So just so you know.
Oh, there you go. Soltron42 said that the D&D Beyond Heroes of the Multiverse game that I didn't catch, but that came out, that they're previewing the rules. And so sitting in the chair with the helm, that you use the helm to kind of phase from wild space to the astral sea is what, if I'm reading you correctly, Soltron42. So that's cool, actually. So you kind of, like, you get to the edge of regular space and you're like, well, here's the infinite nothing. And that's when you will, like, almost, I guess, like hyperspace, kind of like you would jump in Star Wars or warp speed or something, but that actually takes you to the astral plane, and that's where you're going to navigate. So that's
Very
interesting.
Lots of good ones out there.
I started a game. I was going to talk about it last week, but we were too busy too. But DM Nathan's running a Black Company game, and I'm a level 5 artificer with dual wands that are shaped like guns. I have these wooden gun wands, and my name is Sticks because I've got sticks, and I just go like pew pew pew. And we've only played once, but it was so much fun. I was like, I did not think I would enjoy this character as much as I have. So that's all I'll say about that. I'll bring up more later as we play.
So good. Black Company is so good. I keep saying this, but I want DM Nathan on so we can talk about Black Company campaign.
Yeah.
Because I could do a whole show on it, an entire hour on Black Company. My favorite.
Maybe it'll be a Saturday morning D&D show at night or something. We'll have Black Company the episode.
Books. If you only read the first one, you could put the rest down. You don't have to go read the other ones. Read just the Black Company.
That is also on my reading list.
Number one, that's
my Kindle is so full of books I have not touched.
I have read that thing 5 different times. I love it so much. I love it. It's so good. Also, Silver Spike's good too, but I'll leave that alone. Yeah, as far as playing, I'll just leave mine. We ain't got too much time here. Dungeon of the Mad Mage, we did play. We had a good time. I think we're nearing the end of the drow levels, maybe, because we ransacked our way through several levels of them. And we decided, just on a whim, to start a troglodyte nation under Waterdeep, and we are spending a lot of...
That won't haunt you later on.
No, yeah. We've made a treaty with them. We've decided to give... We had a circlet of intellect, and we're giving it to the leader of the troglodyte tribe to allow them to no longer be oppressed by the drow houses that have been oppressing them and using them as cannon fodder for their wars and their battles, and just, typically being terrible to these troglodytes. And so we've saved them. We've reinforced where they live. We're going to help them. And so this idea in our heads, we were laughing because our dungeon master was doing the facepalm the entire time, is that we're starting basically like you're saying, the uprising of where troglodytes just swarm out of the sewers of Waterdeep and take over. Just because apparently they breed quickly. So if you encourage something that breeds quickly, it could get out of control very quickly. But we're like, hey, we're Ack Inc. and they're with us, so that's good as long as it's out of control for other people.
Instead of
other people's problems.
Boy, that next episode, instead of troubles with tribbles, it's troubles with troglodytes. It's going to be great.
Yes. So that was fun. We had a lot of fun, goofing around. We were given them magic items, and we started training montages so they could learn to fight. I mean, we just went ham on it, and our, Danimal kind of let us do it. But and we're like, yeah, this will never bite us in the butt later on, I'm sure. So that's been fun. But it looks like we're about to head down to our next level, which would be pretty cool. We're getting there. I think we're officially halfway through what the module has written. I think our Dungeon Master has said, so we're definitely working on the second half of Dungeon the Mad Mage. I don't know how many people can say that. I'm working towards my campaign badge, so you better get it ready for me there, Jordan, because I'm going to have Dungeon of the Mad Mage campaign badge. I am going to complete it.
I do need to get on that. That'd be a cool badge. You'd be really happy.
I did see a company, I think, called Campaign Badges. I haven't gone to their site yet, but I want to go over and look at it.
Beetle and Grimm started making coins. I think it's going to be the next thing. So
yeah, could be cool.
I don't know. Anyway, that's our show, ladies and gentlemen. We will be off next week. No show, as we're both out of town.
No show next week.
But we'll be back mid-May, so like May 14th, I guess, to talk about probably Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse that's going to come out. I've reserved my copy. It should be here the day it's released. And that is all she wrote. All the murder she wrote.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, bum.
That's mid-May, start of the summer. Things are getting exciting. We'll be back higher energy in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it'll be good.
More voices, louder voices. We'll be great. It's going to be good. Don't miss it.
Don't miss it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time in 2 weeks for another episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show. Bye.